All right, let's jump right in. If you've ever had that light bulb moment, that brilliant business idea, you also know the fear that comes right after it. What if this whole thing fails? Well, today we're going to break down Eric Ries's game-changing book, The Lean Startup. It's a method designed to help entrepreneurs get through all that uncertainty and build businesses that actually work. So Eric Ries kicks things off with this really powerful idea. Most startup failures are actually avoidable. It's not some rite of passage you just have to endure. A lot of it comes down to waste. Wasted time, wasted money, wasted passion. And that's something we can actually systematically get rid of. And this slide right here shows the huge mental shift. The old way, you'd write a super detailed business plan, assuming you already know exactly what your customers want, and then just execute on it. But the lean startup, it flips that completely on its head. It starts by assuming you don't know, and that your number one job isn't to build, it's to learn. So why does so many new businesses crash and burn? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. They're using the playbook for a big, established company in the wild, unpredictable world of a startup. It's kind of like trying to follow a detailed roadmap in a country that hasn't even been discovered yet. And this is the real villain of the story. So many entrepreneurs spend months, sometimes years, perfecting a product all by themselves, only to launch it to complete silence. They flawlessly built something based on a guess they made on day one, the guess that anybody would actually want it. So, the lean startup gives us another way. It just throws out that old myth of the brilliant idea and replaces it with a disciplined, scientific process. It basically treats building a business less like an art and more like a science for dealing with extreme uncertainty. And this just totally reframes the goal of a startup. See, your job isn't to build the perfect thing right out of the gate. Your job is to learn. The winner in this game isn't the person with the best initial idea. It's the person who can figure out what customers really want and adapt to that faster than anyone else. Okay, so how do you actually do that? You do it with something called the build, measure, learn feedback loop. Just think of this as the engine at the heart of your startup. It's a really simple rinse and repeat cycle that's designed to turn your ideas into a real business as fast and as cheap as possible. The loop has these 3 core steps. First, you build a quick experiment. Then you measure how your customers respond to it. And finally, you learn from that data to figure out what to do next. Let's break each of these down real quick. Now that first step, build, can be a little misleading. You're not actually building the final product. No. What you're doing is looking at your business plan and finding the absolute riskiest assumptions, the things that have to be true for any of this to work, and then you build the smallest, fastest thing you possibly can to see if they are true. And the tool you use for this test is the minimum viable product, or the MVP. Now, it is so important to remember this is not your version 1.0. It might be rough, it might be missing a bunch of features. Its one and only job is to get you the maximum amount of validated learning from real customers with the least amount of work. So once your MVP is out there in the real world, you hit the measure phase. But this isn't just about collecting a bunch of data. It's about getting the right data, the kind that helps you get past your own biases and see what's actually happening. And to do this right, you have to decide what success and failure look like before you even run the experiment. So for example, if you're testing a new web page, decide ahead of time how many email signups means this is a success. This keeps you from just changing the rules later to make yourself feel better about the results. All right, so you've built your test, you've measured the results, and now you're at the most important part of the entire loop. This is that moment of truth, where you have to make a really tough call based on what you just learned. And you've really only got 2 choices. If the data proved your core assumptions were right, fantastic. You persevere, you double down, you improve the product, and you run the loop again to get even better. But if the data proved one of your core beliefs was wrong, you have to have the guts to pivot, to make a big change to your strategy and start the whole loop over with a new idea. When you step back, the lean startup isn't just a bunch of tricks and tactics. It's a whole new way of thinking about what an entrepreneur does. You're not just an artist with a vision. You're more like a scientist running experiments in a lab. And the whole reason you keep running these cycles over and over is to find that one thing, product market fit. That's that magical moment when your customers are basically telling you that your product solves a huge problem for them. It's when the market starts pulling the product away from you instead of you having to push it on them. At the end of the day, this whole process is a lifeline. Starting a company can really feel like you're just swimming in the deep end, totally lost in the chaos. The lean startup gives you a framework, a structure to manage that chaos and turn all that uncertainty into a chance to learn. So we'll leave you with this one question to chew on. That amazing idea you've been dreaming up, is it a fully formed vision ready to go? Or is it what the lean startup would call it, a powerful but still untested hypothesis? The difference between those two things, well, that could be the difference between success and failure.